Things are getting interesting as Coinbase is now stating and alleging that the SEC is officially violating the law. Let's take a little bit of a look. John Deaton wrote out, is Paul Grewal, who is this chief legal officer over at Coinbase, engaging in hyperbole by claiming the SEC is violating the law? This word could be pronounced wrong. It's possible. Let's review a few facts. Up until 2018, the SEC had no policy whatsoever regarding SEC staff owning crypto because these digital assets were a new asset class and the SEC was unsure about it. In 2018, when Hinman was drafting his infamous speech discussing digital assets in general, and, mind you, asserting Bitcoin and ETH were non-securities, senior officials at the SEC acknowledged that crypto assets fell into a regulatory gap. Now, before we move on, guys, I'm a little bit far away, but make sure you press that like button. Right now, you can see we're in Thailand. Somebody just gave me a shirt to kind of feel right in, and things are amazing on the island life. Having said that, if you've pressed that like button, let's dive right back in. So, as we said, Bitcoin and Ether were called non-securities by these senior officials at the SEC, and they acknowledged that crypto assets fell into a regulatory gap, and it was unclear the SEC could even regulate that. Now, in 2019, the annual FSOC report signed by Jerome Powell, the CFTC chair, the Treasury Secretary, etc., highlighted the growing market cap of virtual currencies. And the report highlighted Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, and XRP, mind you. And the chairman, Clayton, also signed it without referencing U.S. securities laws. In early 2021, Gary Gensler, testifying at his confirmation hearing, agreed, key point there, that this regulatory gap exists, but he means exists, and that there was no existing regulatory framework for crypto companies as it falls outside of the CFTC and SEC frameworks. There isn't a single case in U.S. history finding that an investment contract existed between a promoter and an issuer, basically a promoter issuer and a buyer, when there exists no privity or private, communication or relationship between said promoter and said buyer. This just meaning that, for example, Ripple and an institution having contact with one another. That's basically the point though. So no privity and all that stuff, meaning that you can't have an investment contract if you're not in a contract, if you're not in a relationship with one another directly. So if I now with you set up an investment contract, right, for an asset, any other person buying that asset on the second hand right now, from another person, is not directly in an investment contract with me. Because even though we're making an investment contract, that has nothing to do with them. They might not know that we exist, which in all these cryptocurrency stories is very much applicable. There isn't a single case in U.S. history finding the secondary sale of an asset once utilized in an investment contract transaction to also constitute an investment contract. This meaning, again, the actual asset itself being the investment contract. The only appellate case involving a secondary sale of an investment contract found otherwise. West Virginia versus EPA decision. The SCOTUS invoked the major questions doctrine, striking down the EPA's unauthorized expansion of its powers in the clear absence of congressional authority. The SCOTUS opinion in Nebraska also citing the major questions doctrine, striking down another agency's unauthorized use of power, see below. We'll talk about that in just a second. The Senate and the House have proposed legislation dealing with crypto assets and who and how Congress wants them regulated. The bills take the regulatory authority out of the SEC's jurisdiction or limits the SEC role in regulating crypto. One bill wants to fire Gary Gensler, if you guys remember that. So even the executive order signed by POTUS, the President of the United States, seemed to favor the CFTC and not the SEC. Can you believe that? And the conclusion here is, Grewal is not being hyperbolic by claiming Gensler and the SEC are violating the law. And so a question that popped up into my mind instantly is, who can sue them? Can somebody sue them? How do you file a complaint? Because the complaints have been filed up for a long time. They've been stacking, right? The people being annoyed by the SEC. Yet If you really think about it, nobody's doing too much about it. And now Paul Grewal from Coinbase is really taking it serious because I guess they've got the powerful BlackRock and all these other major institutions behind them. You don't know what I'm talking about? Well, do you guys remember those articles a little while ago from the last couple of days that Coinbase is backing BlackRock and Bitcoin ETF application? Well, actually kind of the opposite way around. We saw all these other funds that, or I guess institutional managers that were getting into the Bitcoin ETF game choose Coinbase as one of their partners. And BlackRock was the only one kind of like being on the sidelines. They have now also joined Coinbase in this race because the SEC basically said their applications were not good enough. They literally had to refile their spot Bitcoin ETF, and the resubmission was dated on the 29th of June, actually already. NASDAQ just posted it though, and they added Coinbase like everybody else. And again, it's actually official. On June 8th, the exchange reached an agreement on terms with Coinbase Inc. to enter into a surveillance sharing agreement, and the associated term sheet became effective as of June 16th. Based on this agreement on terms, the exchange and Coinbase will finalize and execute a definitive agreement that the parties expect to be executed prior to allowing trading of the commodity-based trust shares. So Coinbase and BlackRock are officially working together, right? John Dean, to end it off, says, the SEC is engaged in an unconstitutional expansion of Howey. It is so absurd of an unconstitutional expansion that it would retroactively make oranges sold by grocery stores securities, which obviously is insane and doesn't make any sense. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you before we move on is what I've decided to do is make a little bit of a community, right? A lot of you guys that I know are in the comments section, I know are just watching these videos every single day, I think can get more out of your crypto experience. And I know this sounds a little bit strange, maybe, but it's actually very simple. We just made a Discord, and there's a lot of cool people in there, completely free, just fun. It's just a lot of other crypto hodlers, just a lot of other XRP holders, a lot of crypto holders, and potentially you can share stories with one another. Be careful, don't share your entire life over in a place like that. But you find out who you like, who you don't like, and just chat with them perhaps. Just one big group, a lot of other cool people in there, a lot of other shady characters. But hey, that comes with the internet, you know? But hopefully, that's what I hope. You guys could just find one another, share information, hopefully share non-financial advice, financial tips with one another. Share potentially the news, all this cool stuff. Maybe help each other trade, all that cool stuff. So just make sure you join it. The Discord link is down below. And let us now look into two different things. So one is Paul Grewal, who said, I've reread and reread the major questions doctrine holding in Nebraska at P19 to 26. Swap out secretary for chair, digital asset for student loans, and there is no conclusion but one. The SEC's interpretation of an investment contract violates the law. Actually, it's far worse. The economic and political significance of falsely claiming authority over digital assets other than Bitcoin is not just staggering, but untethered to the fundamental requirement that there be enforceable rights between enterprise and purchaser. Read it for yourself, the Supreme Court article. Bonus, Congress isn't just capable of fixing standards by theoretically passing legislation in the future. It's actively working to do that right now. This isn't even a close call. And even though I fully agree with Coinbase, I'm going to say 100% of what they're saying is just the truth. The SEC has overreached for, in my opinion, far too long, far too wide, and Gary Gensler should definitely be fired. I think every single person watching this agreed that he's, I don't want to say a crook because I don't want to be the guy to put that down officially, but I will say that he is definitely following a different path that looks to all of us like he's being paid to be a shithead. Like, people are literally pooping on top of his head and he's accepting it because he's either getting power, money, or he's being blackmailed or something. That's what it looks like, at least, right? But a point of criticism to Coinbase is, why in the world did you take off XRP then, right? Is it all because you couldn't have foreseen this future? Is it all because I'm seeing two things, right? Either they did not expect the SEC to go this far, which is highly probable. So they thought if they take XRP off, the SEC would be on their good sides because they got the IPO approved afterwards. They were in good relationships, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Things look good. But maybe now, right? The fact that the SEC is going after them so much, they are just fed up because they didn't take off the staking. They didn't take off any of these other cryptos that are being alleged to be securities. And perhaps, they could even put XRP back on there. Who knows? But in all honesty as well, one interesting thing is oh no, it's F's. That's fine. what was multiple F's? I want to say, is Bitcoin now officially actually fine as well? It's pretty hard to gauge. Like me right now as a crypto hodler, even though I'm not based in the U.S., it's still. And by the way, I'm not from the United States. A lot of people seem to think so. But no, I'm not a native English speaker. I've learned English. Even I am not 1,000% sure if Bitcoin is now officially deemed a non-security, or who rules over that, or how exactly it works. Is the SEC supposed to govern over Bitcoin? Is it the CFTC? Is it who exactly should be doing that? And who made that determination? Because in theory, all we can claim is it's not satisfying the Howey test, right? It's not falling for it. But then is it automatically a commodity because it has some of those trades, or does it still traits, or does it fall in another category that is yet to exist? And we'll only know that because all these other cryptos are just otherwise uncategorized, because some of them might not fall under commodities, but more as currencies, but maybe not actually currencies because of the now current laws. So are there going to be new laws created that are solely for these new virtual currencies? I guess with CBDCs coming in hot, it's going to be a more prominent question, right? What exactly are these currencies now that are potentially not issued by a central government, but work like a currency, but it kind of also like a commodity, but don't fully fit into either? They do for the most part. If you tell me XRP is a currency, yeah, I can understand. If you tell me that XRP acts more like a commodity most of the time, I'd understand. And the same thing applies to Bitcoin. For the most part, it's definitely a commodity. But to some extent, the idea there is to be a currency. So where exactly does it lie? And who exactly governs that? Who exactly writes down exactly what it is? Well, one thing I know for sure is it's not supposed to be the SEC, because the word security there didn't really fit at all into the description. But hey, hopefully now this is going to spring up some people to sue the SEC, something like that, or to get them down. I mean, right now, a lot of bills are being put up to regulate crypto properly and to get the SEC out of the way. So I guess we're making progress. I guess that's the nice thing from this video. That's the outline from this video. People are taking it more serious that the SEC is overreaching now. Coinbase has officially put up statements that they think the SEC is not doing the job properly, and they're literally violating the law. So we all know as well, since Coinbase now being backed by BlackRock and all these other partners, people are going to take this serious. They're literally going to be looking at these statements thinking, yeah, the SEC is indeed not following the law because they don't have the right. This could be interesting for all the motions to dismiss as well, because if Coinbase is now right in alleging the SEC does not have the authority, then every single case, the one against Ripple, the one against Coinbase, the one against Binance, etc., they all get dismissed. They all literally get thrown out the window. The one against Bittrex, the one against all these exchanges gets thrown out, because that means they couldn't have ever alleged this. Now, on the exchange part of Securities and Exchange Commission, perhaps the SEC still fits, but that does not mean they can call cryptocurrencies that are trading on these exchanges securities, and thus their lawsuits are mostly based upon inaccuracies, as big parts of their statements are the fact that they're utilizing security offerings or sorts when they don't have the proper licensing for it, or they're trading unregistered securities, etc. Anyway, I'm looking out for this result. I'm looking out for who's going to respond and what it's going to be. I think their claims are highly accurate, and I don't think the SEC is doing a good job. I think it's highly unethical, but most importantly, against the law. And so I hope somebody's going to go after them. I mean, we know Gary Gensler has been questioned quite a lot recently, at least. Cherry Clayton is also being questioned a lot more. And I think the House Financial Services Committee is meeting next month to talk about some crypto regulation. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with all that. And as always, I'll keep you up to date. So I recommend you guys to put that notification bell on, because what if something crazy drops? What if Gary Gensler gets fired tomorrow? You want to be the first to know. So if you got your notification bell on, you can see the title, you can see a little bit of what the video is about, click it on. And if you don't like it, don't watch it, right? But at least make sure you get yourself up to date with whatever is most important in the crypto space. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today, because there's another one coming, so stay tuned.